This is how to get so strong that no one can keep up with you, to the point where years into your training, you're still able to get a PR of some kind every single session. Whether that's more weight, whether that's more reps, whether that's better control, you can keep this up time and time again. And this is exactly how I was able to go from not being able to do a single pull-up to doing weighted muscle-ups, from not being able to do push-ups on my knees to a 65 kg weighted ring dip. And first of all, you need to have your mindset in the right place, because it's quite easy to fall on one or the other side of the extremes. And the first extreme that we have is having a lack of structure, having too much enjoyment, you might say, when it comes to the training. So a lot of this is like the groups of teenagers that come in crowding around the bench press, trying to learn muscle ups with the ugliest form that you've ever seen in your life. And whilst they're having fun, they lack structure, their technique isn't good, their risk of injury is quite high, so you don't want to be replicating that. But they do have something that a lot of seasoned lifters miss, which is that enjoyment, that playfulness when it comes to training. Because on the other hand, you have a lot of people who are really locked in, they've been training for years, they might go to powerlifting gyms or proper strength gyms, and they're really structured with their training. They of course have very high levels of strength, but they don't even enjoy it. They're always chasing a competition, always chasing external results, but they don't even like the training anymore. They fall out of love with it. They often start to lose sight of what made training enjoyable for them in the first place. And that is not the kind of place you want to be in. So it's Aristotle who said that the mean of virtue is in between the extremities of vice. So what that means is there's a golden mean, a middle point that is most virtuous, most good, and in our terms, when it comes to training, most sustainable and most enjoyable to do, which is not this complete lack of structure that beginners or the first few people in the gym might have, but also not this seriousness where you're cold and isolated, never willing to talk to anyone or never willing to think outside the box. So with that combination of both of these approaches in the middle, the virtuous mean, that is how we're going to structure our training. So the question to ask is, what is enjoyable and what gives you most consistent progress? I'm biased, of course, but I'll argue from what I've seen with many people, calisthenics is the best way to achieve this. And the best way to get the most out of calisthenics is to do weighted calisthenics, otherwise known as street lifting. So the three lifts that are going to give you the most progress for the full body are going to be weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, and weighted squats. And when I say weighted squats, I really just mean barbell back squats, the normal squats that you see, because all of these are technically weighted calisthenics. And if you can't do them weighted, you can always regress. You can do them with body weight squats, body weight pull-ups, body weight dips. If you can't do those, you can do assisted variations, assisted dips, assisted pull-ups. You can do box squats, half range of motion squats to begin with. Everything has a progression to it, and that's what's really good about calisthenics, is you can always accommodate to whatever level you need to. From absolute beginner to Olympic gymnast level, there's something that everyone is able to do. So weighted calisthenics, or some of these calisthenics foundations to begin with, are going to be the best way to start your sessions with. And when it comes to rep ranges, it's good to do some lower rep ranges and some higher rep ranges as well. It gives you the best of both worlds. And of course, you want to make sure that you warm up properly. Wrists and shoulders, you want to warm up before every session, even if you're training legs, because holding a weight on your back means that you need to have your wrist and your shoulders behind you. And actually warming up the wrists and shoulders helps with that too. And with the other days, warming up these joints is really important for the upper body movements. And it can feel like, you just want to get straight to the actual training and you want to just start doing the pull-ups, you want to start with the light bench press and work your way up immediately, like who's got time for the warm-ups? But even if you're limited on time, even if you have only 30 minutes to work out, if you spend 5 minutes warming up the joints, the risk of injury is just going to be so much lower. And that's what's important. You want to have longevity in the sport. If you want to keep building strength to the extent where you're able to keep progressing keep doing it, surpassing people, getting to the point where you make so much progress that no one's able to keep up. You need to stay in the game. You can't be getting yourself injured. That is the stupidest and worst thing that you could possibly do for your gym and training progress. So you best believe that you gotta warm up properly, man. Wrists and shoulders before every session. Legs, when you're training legs, of course. Then start with one of these compounds. Weighted pull-ups, weighted dips or squats. Or if you need to regress, you can do that as well. Do some lower rep stuff and some higher rep stuff. So you can build up in a pyramid structure. You can do squats with 20 kg, 60 kg, 80 kg, and then 100 kg for the top set, which you can do for 3 to 6 reps. You can do 1 or 2 sets of that, and then you can come down to 80 kg, for instance. You can do 2 to 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps. You can obviously make this programming more advanced as you become more advanced, but start with, don't overcomplicate it. You can do some low rep stuff, high rep stuff, try and progress between sessions, try and surpass a given rep range. There's nothing to overthink too much. So that's great to begin with. Then gymnastic rings are going to be your bread and butter. These are going to help you so much in terms of carryover and body awareness, scapular awareness, how to move your shoulder blades properly to give you that mobility that opens up all of the other upper body exercises. So with that, you can start to do pull-ups and dips on the rings. Just get used to holding yourself on top of the rings, which to begin with is very, very humbling. Even people who have been in the gym for a long time can struggle a lot with ring dips and ring support holds to begin with, but over time that does become easier. Then, once you've learned some of the basics, you can try to do L-sits on the rings or even tucked L-sits on the rings. You can learn the skin the cat, which is a very good movement for shoulder mobility, and you can start to progress with some of these movements. And then other than that, having some kind of bodybuilding accessories, if you enjoy it, definitely do some of this. If you like chasing the pump, you like to have that feeling of blood flowing to the muscles and the biceps are all pumped up and they feel hard and everything like that. And if you like that feeling, then yeah, go for it. You don't have to be limited to a certain structure if you don't enjoy that. But in general, you don't actually need too much in terms of bodybuilding accessories. So normally what you can do is you can have a primary compound and a secondary compound within that same day. And this is a good way to structure things. So for example, you can start with ring dips and then you can have bench press later in the session. So you begin with some vertical pushing and then you have some horizontal pushing later in the session. You can start with handstands if you're strong enough to do them. You can start with them and then you can do some bench press later on. You could also start with horizontal pushing. You can start with bench press and then you can do vertical pushing with normal weighted dips later on. So there is room to experiment with this, but to begin with, I'd recommend just focusing on the weighted calisthenics movements. So make that the primary compound to start with. Make it weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, or squats. And this can land quite nicely on the normal push-pull leg split if you start with weighted dips, or you can do pull-push legs as well, which I personally do recommend, as it just gives you a little bit more scope to focus on pull, which gives you really good carryover to other stuff. Other than that, mobility is very important, so stretching at all of the joints that you can. So as well as the warm-ups that you do for the wrists and shoulders, if you can build up mobility with the hips, for example with the lunge stretch and the butterfly stretch, if you can build up your core control with hollow body holds, if you can strengthen your lower back with the McGill Big 3, you can look into all of this. You can study this, you can make this into something that is enjoyable for you to learn more about. You can find out more about how the body functions. The gym can become your laboratory, your playground. You can examine and learn more and more about this craft, especially if you want to get to high levels and keep progressing in all of these different realms. The more you learn about mobility and how the joints work, how the shoulder blades work, how to combine these different elements, it really does help. And then other than that, with the training, if you can do it minimum 3 times a week, that's going to be excellent. If you can do it up to 5 or 6 times a week in the gym, push-pull leg split, for example, that's even better, because the more frequency you give certain movements, especially stuff like pull-ups and bench press. If you do pull-ups almost every training day and you do bench press 3 or 4 times a week, that is how you can blow up those numbers. You can get stronger and stronger. Bench press, of course, feels sick to progress with. Pull-ups allow you to progress more with stuff like muscle ups, front lever, like all of the good fun stuff really is unlocked by having stronger pull-ups. So if you can do them and start to build up more capacity, more recovery capacity, and more volume with that, that is amazing. And then otherwise, on the rest days, if you're really hardcore and you really want this synergistic training where every single element helps itself, you can do some cardio. You can do some running or swimming or cycling or badminton or some kind of sport. With this, you don't want to have it too intense. So around zone 2 that they call it, which is where you're still able to have some kind of conversation with someone. Like it's not too much on your breathing, but at the same time, it's still pushing you enough. It's still building that capacity. So to summarize, if you start with street lifting, weighted pull-ups, weighted dips, squats, you have gymnastic rings after that, you have a secondary compound after that, then accessories if you feel like it. If you want to do some bicep curls, you want to do some lateral raises, that kind of thing, you can do that. And then you finish with mobility. And then on the rest days, if you're really locked in, you do the cardio as well. This all plays into itself. Better cardio means you're able to do an extra rep. An extra rep means that you're able to build more muscle. More muscle means that you get stronger. It's all a cycle that plays into itself. And people have limited their scope of thinking too much into just thinking in the box. But if you think outside of the box a bit, you think about how you can have synergistic training and combine these disciplines to make it something that you can enjoy consistently, then it's something that you'll never ever give up with. You'll have longevity with it. You'll make sure to avoid injuries. You'll keep progressing over and over after years and years of training. And you do that, and all of a sudden you've surpassed everyone, even the top athletes. You do this for 5 to 10 years, you can be the best in calisthenics, be one of the best in powerlifting, maybe even be one of the best in cardio like running or marathons. In terms of what you can achieve, it's endless. There is no ceiling to any of this. And if you can realize that, and if you can elevate your belief beyond that point, then the progress you make is truly exceptional, and no one can keep up. And if you want to learn from someone who is training like this every single day, who has the gym as his laboratory, his playground, learning as much as possible to directly help clients with everything along the way, then check out the top link in the description and book a call with me. These are the methods that got me from 0 pull-ups to weighted muscle-ups, who have helped several clients to get stronger than they ever thought possible, to be able to achieve skills and abilities of strength that they previously had never seen even being within reach. And now they're smashing it, doing weighted pull-ups or reps, be able to unlock clean skin the cats, get leaner, fixing shoulder injuries and all sorts of problems. Everything when it comes to the gym, I am locked in. I am the best teacher for this because I did not start from a place where I had everything. I started from nothing. And the best teacher is the underdog, the one who built himself up from nothing but has reached levels and made progress beyond what the others have ever done. So if you want to learn from me and to get so strong to the point where no one is able to keep up with you, check out the top link in the description, book a call, and I'll see you there. And as always, remember bro, keep improving.